Henry Cejudo previews his fight with Yadong, sharing how the training camp went and what his mindset is for this one. At 38 years of age, the former flyweight and bantamweight champ will attempt to make a statement with a victory over a dangerous and hungry contender like Yadong, and one more time insert himself into the title picture. The interesting thing about Henry's position right now is that despite having lost 2 fights in a row and kind of forgotten about as once the most dominant force in the division, especially after the current champion's dominant win over him, he lost those fights to 2 of the best in bantamweight history. He even arguably won the fight with Aljamain Sterling, but the split decision went the other way, of course. And he did have some success against Merab on the feet. Merab and Aljo are also 2 of the best wrestlers in the division, so Henry's own wrestling skills couldn't become the deciding factor in there. Now, he's facing Yadong, and the dynamics are much different. In a conversation with Kamaru Usman, Henry commented on the training camp and his attitude going into this Saturday's main event.
Cap is going great, weight is great, injury-free, motivated. Cap has been I always want to say like my last camp is always the best camp. This camp right here is always, it's been the best camp because we've been able to adjust a lot of things that have been, just overstimulating the body, just certain things that you always kind of take from like your past camps. So I'm stoked, bro. I'm excited. In February 22nd, like I said before, I will be serving chow mein.
Yeah, which leads me to my next question. I mean, you've been known to do a magic trick or two. You know what I'm saying? So, so anything we got planned? Anything special for this one?
You guys might see a fortune cookie at Wayne. You guys might see something. I'm stereotyping, bro. I'm bringing it all, dude. It's part of what pushes me. Come on, I don't think people really understand that. It's like, I've been competing my whole life that I feel like what puts more pressure on me is when I shine, dude. The Olympic Games, UFC titles, X, Y, and Z. So I feel like I've dug into a little bit more because anything that gives me butterflies, it's a good thing for me.
Dricus du Plessis responds to Belal Muhammad, saying he's looking to go up to middleweight and challenge him for the title, so Islam Makhachev can just move up to welterweight without Belal being there. Muhammad also added that he thinks du Plessis sucks, and he's confident he would defeat the South African if the fight happened. Being one of the most unpopular champions in the UFC with no title defenses at this time, the chances of Dana granting him a title shot against Dricus, especially also considering top contenders at 185, are slim. But all of this, of course, still became a topic of discussion on social media. In his latest interview, du Plessis responded to Belal's comments about a potential fight with him, where he expressed both confusion and amusement in reaction to the welterweight champion's call-out and Belal even thinking that such a fight is likely to happen. Not only does Dricus not understand how Belal could believe that he's in a position to move up in weight, his vision of how this fight would go if it somehow happened is just stepping on Muhammad's head and ending it.
Belal Muhammad, I can't even remember the way he fights. I don't know. The man, has he ever finished anyone?
Sean Brady a couple of years ago was one of the few finishes in his current winning streak.
All right. Well, happy for him. No, it's just, I like how he acts as if he has a choice to ever go up to 185. Like, the UFC will never let him. The UFC doesn't even like Belal Muhammad. So what makes him think that he hasn't even defended his belt once? I don't know why he's definitely better on Twitter than he is in fights, I have to say that. Yeah, if I fight Belal Muhammad, it would be unfair. It would, yeah.
Meaning it would be a very one-sided matchup?
100%. Have you seen the size of the man? What is he going to do? Is he going to get somebody to help him? Is he going to sit on somebody's neck? How is it going to work? He's the smallest. I couldn't believe that he's a 170 when I saw him.
Just for fun, how do you think that fight goes?
I step on his head and it's over.
John Jones's coach reveals a scary moment in a recent training session when John broke his sparring partner's orbital bone with his elbow while on top of him. What kind of elbow it was, and whether John was working on his 12-6 elbows as they were recently made legal, we don't know. But according to Greg Jackson, what happened in the gym was ugly. Speaking with the Russian channel Ushataika, which translated him into Russian and put the version up, the main subject of discussion was, of course, John Jones. Greg talked about his first meeting with Bones, them becoming a team, and specific details of his previous fights, like the chaotic build-up to his first bout with Alexander Gustafsson, or both fights with DC. When asked what's next for John, Greg didn't give a direct answer and went with the safest route of saying UFC and John's management are working on some options and nothing is concrete at this time. But perhaps the most interesting moment of the whole interview was Jackson accidentally revealing that in a recent sparring session, John went a bit too hard and broke his sparring partner's orbital bone via elbow strikes. The reporter immediately picked up on it and asked follow-up questions, but Jackson kept it vague and brief after that. Here's the exchange.
Джон ground and pound нокаутер. Он может сломать орбитальную кость одним ударом в партере. Если Джон нашел свою позицию в партере и начал бить, то здесь лучше молиться Богу, потому что он просто раскромсает твое лицо. Его мозг лучше работает с локтями, чем с панчами. Вот локтем он как раз может генерировать нокаут силу.
Kenny Florian predicts Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. This weekend's co-main event is a high-stakes rematch between two interesting prospects of the middleweight division. Fluffy Hernandez is riding hot on a 6-fight winning streak, which began with his shocking comeback finish of Rodolfo Vieira 4 years ago. Since then, his body of work has gotten him closer and closer to top 10, and he'll try to steal the spot from Brendan Allen, who sits at number 9 right now. Allen had won 7 fights in a row before losing to Imavov, who just knocked out Israel Adesanya and is one of the top contenders, so Allen's momentum certainly was halted. But all things considered, it's still too early to judge what the limit of his potential is. The two fought in LFA back in 2018, and Fluffy was able to get a win via decision after 5 rounds. He's currently a pretty decently sized betting favorite over Allen. Kenny Florian shared his thoughts on the matchup.
Allen isn't very good off of his back. He's good when he gets top position, but he's not great off of his back. And if you're not great on your back, Hernandez is going to make your life miserable, and he's going to get you out of there, whether it's a ground and pound or a submission. Rodolfo Vieira found out what it's like to deal with Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And if you're not even close to a jiu-jitsu game like Rodolfo Vieira, and granted, Rodolfo's experience at the time was nothing like Brendan Allen's is now, but still, you got to be something special off of your back. And to me, Brendan Allen isn't that something special off of his back. There's only a handful of guys that are that good on their back in the UFC in all weight classes, in my opinion. And unfortunately for Brendan Allen, he isn't that guy. I think Anthony Hernandez is going to, make it a miserable long night for Brendan Allen. I think Allen can survive some tough spots, and I think Allen can be dangerous, especially in round 1, potentially early parts of round 2. But after round 1 really is where Anthony Hernandez tends to just take over. And his will is going to be something to deal with. So I like Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and maybe I like him pretty big here.